Okay, this is a video of, well, me showing how to mix up a week's worth of keto food, which is a ketogenic, it's mostly powdered food. It's made up of, well, you've got cocoa and chia seeds and coconut flour, a bunch of other stuff, and you've also got potassium citrate and a few other kind of more refined chemicals, but it's everything you need to maintain ketosis. So to start off with, the main ingredient in this is, well, because I'm doing a week at a time, it's going to be 700 grams of coconut flour. So I've got my 1 gram scale. It goes from 5 kilos down to 1 gram. And I've got a Utz cheese ball container that I've been using to mix up my stuff in. Works really well. It gives me a lot of room to mix it together. So I'm going to get that on my scale. Zero it out, switch it to grams. This one doesn't stay on grams. It's a lot of fun. And measure out 700 grams. So, almost there. Oops, a little bit too much. I've got 703. There we go. Okay, now this, I noticed there were a bunch of clumps, so I'm going to break those up really quick. It's not a big deal, but with the rest of the mixing that's going to be going on, I want them to be all nice and happy. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to stick that over here to the side. Coconut flour over there. The next thing is a bunch of whey protein isolate. I forgot to grab that. Hold on a second. Had everything else ready, just not that. So I need 546 grams of whey protein isolate. You'll notice all these measurements are, of course, in weight. We're not doing volumetric, how many cups or anything like that, because, well, stuff tends to settle, and what may be 5 cups for 500 grams is like 10 cups for 500 grams, depending on how densely packed stuff is. So, yeah, this is all by weight. So I need 546 grams. That's going to be quite a lot. And I'm just using an old cashew container that my wife had sitting around because it's just about the right size. So I had that zeroed out on the scale. I'm just going to fill it up. If past experience is any indicator, I'm going to have to fill it up almost all the way for the 546. So I got 517. 549. There we go. 546 grams. Okay. So I'll just stick that into the big pot. And I'm done with that, the guy. Next, I'm going to need chia seeds. Chia seeds are really not too much fun. First, I'm going to switch to my smaller scale. This scale will only do up to 1 kilogram, but it will do increments of a tenth of a gram. So it's a lot more accurate, and when I get into the smaller stuff, I like to use it instead. So 182 grams of chia seeds. I've got a glass bowl here that I've got. And the thing about chia seeds, in theory, your body is supposed to be able to, dissolve the whole, but according to some studies that they did, you only get the omega-3s from them, or was it omega something, if they are ground. So after measuring these, oh, too much, 182 grams. It's a lot of chia seeds. 182. So after measuring these, I have to grind them. So to do that, I've got this little, well, it's a coffee / spice grinder. It's a grinder. So I'm going to bring that over here. To the outlet that I added to my island when I remodeled my kitchen, because seriously, you have to have one of these. Okay, need this too. You just put in a little bit at a time and grind it up. Still haven't bothered figuring out how the grinder exactly works, because it's just got this funny little spinny blade in there. This is one of the parts of making this particular recipe that takes the most amount of time, is grinding up the chia seeds. And because they have so much oil in them, it's a really good idea to scrape out the grinder with a spoon as you go. If you just grind up the entire 182 grams of chia seeds all in one go without scooping it out, you get some really funny buildup. Okay. I'm just going to leave it in there for a second. Okay. Grind it some more. So I'm at the edge of my lens's range, or the side of it. Has anybody noticed the chromatic aberrations yet? It's kind of a funny fluke of that lens. Talking about the video camera. And I should be able to get the rest in this one. Yep. Okay. So last grind. Okay, we are done with grinding. Give it a quick scrape. I'll finish cleaning it out later because there's not a lot in there, but it's just kind of funky. And it's just because they once again, they have so much oil in them. They tend to form a little bit of a paste on the outsides. Okay, so done with that. Stick that over here. Okay, the next up is organic raw cocoa. I tried to find inorganic raw cocoa, but everything was carbon-based. I couldn't find any that was silicone. So, whatever. I'll just use the organic stuff. Anyway, I need 140 grams. This right here, when combined with the coconut flour, gives the finished product kind of an overall taste of a Mounds candy bar, which actually isn't that bad. I'm not a huge fan of coconut, but it's not bad at all. So, 140 grams is also a lot. This stuff tends to clump too. $138, almost there. Okay, 141.2, almost there. Okay, got enough. So, I'll stick that in here with the rest of the ingredients. Put that over to the side. Next we got soy lecithin granules. In addition to providing some choline, which I've also got choline bitartrate for that. These also act as an emulsifier to make all of the oil mix together with everything else and keeps everything in suspension. It just kind of smooths everything out. One thing it can't smooth out is the coconut flour. That's just, well, that's coconut flour. It's ground pretty finely, but you still end up with, well, coconut in your mouth. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. So, I need 56 grams of this stuff. So, 56.7, too much. I really don't like the way these things smell, but they seem not to negatively impact the overall flavor in the end. Okay. Ceylon cinnamon powder. Not to be confused with the other type of cinnamon. The other type of cinnamon has some potentially toxic chemicals in it. It's not bad if you're just having a little bit, but if you have a lot of it, like say, I don't know, 28 grams of it a week, that stuff can build up and it can be potentially really dangerous and harmful to your health. So you have to make sure you get the Ceylon stuff. Once again, this stuff is organic as well, and I just had no luck at all finding anything on Amazon that wasn't inorganic. It's too bad. All that carbon. Okay, 28 grams. In theory, you can actually leave out the cinnamon powder. It adds some stuff to it, to the overall nutrition, but mostly just adds flavor and it tastes okay. And if you don't like cinnamon, you could always leave it out. Next, you need salt. 28 grams of that as well. In fact, we're doing 28 grams for a while. So, that's too much. 28.7. Okay, 28.1. There we go. Close enough. If you're having problems with ketosis, it's recommended that you increase the amount of salt and potassium, sodium and potassium that you're getting. I'm going with the recipe still because I tend to snack on pepperoni and cheese and stuff like that, and those have quite a bit of salt in them, so I'm not overly worried about that. Then we got potassium citrate. Potassium citrate is nice because, among other things, it helps prevent kidney stone formation, which, well, when you're doing ketosis, is a really severe problem. So that's why I'm using potassium citrate instead of potassium chloride. Most people will recommend potassium chloride because it's salt substitute. You go to the store and you get salt substitute. That's potassium chloride. It'll give you your potassium, and it's easy to get and it's cheap. This stuff's just a little bit more refined, I guess. And you have to buy it on Amazon. Okay, choline bitartrate. This is just essentially pure choline. And I only need 7 grams of this. So, whoop, well, that's way too much. Still too much. This stuff smells awful. It smells like rubber tires. And once again, I don't think it affects the flavor when you got that much coconut going on, but I'm just going to break up the little globs. This stuff tends to cake together because it doesn't have anything else in there, and so I just want to break it up. Okay, and the last thing that I add, it's not actually part of the official recipe is some stevia powder. And that's simply because, well, I want it to taste better, and it was a little bit bitter with all of that cocoa powder. And so by adding stevia, and I'm putting in 1/2 teaspoon for each week, 2/4 teaspoons, it really improves the flavor. So, and in theory, without any carbohydrates that are bad for me. Anyway, and because it's so concentrated, a little bit goes a really long way. So that's all there is to the powder. Let me grab a big spoon that I forgot, along with the protein. And to mix it up, actually not difficult. A lot of people warn about settling. And yeah, you do need to worry about settling a little bit. That's why you stir it with a spoon first, and then you use a tumbling action to shake it up. If you use a shaking action, that doesn't actually really do anything. In fact, you're just speeding along there's a clump. Kill that clump. You're just speeding up the settling, not settling. Whereas if you use a tumbling action, you'll, for realsies, mix it up. So here's the lid. Let's just mix this up. Okay. And there we go. For each meal, I figured out the math. It works out to 81.7 grams of this mix, mixed up with water in a blender bottle. So, here's one right there. So, a blender bottle. You put the mix in there. You add the oil, fill it up to the top, shake it up good, and that's one of your 3 meals for the day. Works out extremely well. Now the other big component, should have got this out earlier, of a ketogenic diet is the oil. Without the oil, well, you're just protein and not very many carbohydrates. The best thing to use is MCT oil, which is medium chain triglyceride. It's coconut oil that's gone through a process, so it's not solid at room temperature. It has the benefit of being able to be absorbed directly into your bloodstream and kicked into ketones by your liver. So it will jumpstart you into ketosis really a lot quicker, and it has a much better mix of all the omegas and everything like that. Some people will use a whole bunch of different oils, a mixture of MCT, olive, canola, other things. I'm just right now using MCT and canola oil, a big giant thing of canola oil. This particular recipe that I'm doing right now calls for 414 milliliters of canola, and the same amount of MCT oil. And I'm going to mix it in an old canola oil bottle that I have. So, got my measuring cup here. Should have dusted that out first. And I'm just going to fill this up with, well, it only goes to 250, so I'm going to get it up to 200 twice. One. The really fun thing about MCT oil is it's crazy, crazy expensive. 2 of these 32-ounce bottles here, I got them off Amazon. I think it was like $45 or something like that. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere cheaper than getting it off Amazon in the Now brand. I also like the Now brand because I'm pretty sure it is what it says it is.
What? Same reason I get the now whey protein isolate.
There's a lot of bad proteins out there, especially American Pure Whey, which is not whey protein. Sure, it has whey in it, but it's not whey protein isolate. There's stuff on that about, if you search for American Pure Whey Reddit, it's a really good write-up that somebody did. Okay, the last thing I need is 14 milliliters. So I've got my little tiny measuring container. That's teaspoons, that's ounces. There's milliliters. Okay. So there's the MCT oil. That's the wrong lid. I don't know what I'm doing there. Now we got the canola oil, the big giant massive thing of it. They make these in smaller bottles.
I just have a big one right now.
Perfect. One more time.
This is fun to watch, isn't it?
While I'm at it. Okay. All right, that does it for the canola oil. Clean up my drip. That bottle never seems to go without getting a mess. Stick that right on the sink. Okay. That is my oil blend. Right there. Now, when I go to mix it up, put this in previous videos, but to measure it, using measuring containers tends to get real messy real quick because you have to clean them up. It's just no fun. I prefer to use a lotion pump that's full of oil because it works extremely well. In this case, to make my keto food, I measured it with that other measuring cup. It's 24 pumps in order to get the 39.8 milliliters that I need every day. So it works extremely well. There's no cleanup at all, except every once in a while a little drip comes off the end. So these are great. Last thing that I need, there isn't all of the vitamins and everything in the mix, and so you have to use, in this case it's Kirtland Daily Multi, and now vitamin D3 and K2 because you don't want to bleed to death. I'm firmly cementing my status as an old man by using a pill organizer because, well, I just want to remember to take them every day. So, oops, got this at Walmart for like $1. So, and if you're taking more than a couple of pills in the morning, it's really nice to have. And those old people have a good idea what they're talking about. Dang it. There we go. So, there I am. Everything I need to live for an entire week, mixed up and ready to go, mostly. Every night before I go to bed, I have to mix up the 3 blender bottles worth for the next day because if I don't, it takes a long time for this soy lecithin to kind of break down. I also need to use an immersion blender or a full-on blender in order to mix it up properly. And it just works better to do it the night before. Then I can stick it in the fridge. All 3 are ready to go for the next morning. I can usually take 2 to work and leave 1 here for when I get home. Anyway, that is keto food.